My name is Paul Luna, and you're tuned into F&B Lunacy. I am here today with Brown Sugar Bakery owner, Stephanie Hart. Stephanie, tell us about Brown Sugar Bakery.
Brown Sugar Bakery is a bakery that I started to concentrate on Southern desserts, which are the desserts of my childhood memories. Desserts that my grandma made, my aunties made, and there were always ladies on in the neighborhood that made special cakes. Like I particularly remember a woman, her name was Miss Mary. That's what we called her because you didn't call people by their first name only. You had to put Miss in front of it. And Miss Mary made the red velvet cake that I didn't even get worthy to taste until I was like 14 years old. So cakes were revered in my childhood. Cakes were, people really had their specialties. But my favorite cake was the cake that my grandmother would make for Christmas. And for my birthday, you got to pick your cake. And my favorite cake is pineapple coconut cake. And that's really the cake that spurred me into this. I'm a technologist by trade. And I started looking for this cake everywhere I went, couldn't find it, and had to figure out how to make it.
If your cakes would make it sound, what would they sound like? Is there a must-have cake or pastry you offer?
Yes, and I will show you that cake. She is, we call her Diana because, the Supremes are good, but Diana is number one. So I don't know if this works for you. There it is.
Okay. Yes, I do.
That's the number one seller here. That's the caramel cake.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
What's next to it?
What is next to it?
Is that a coconut or?
This is that's the pineapple coconut cake. Another cake that I created. I named it after our past president, Obama. And it's kind of everything I love. I think it represents America. It is red velvet cake. On the inside, it's red velvet cake, chocolate cake, yellow cake. It's filled and frosted with cream cheese. It's topped with chocolate, and it is topped with pecans. And so I don't know how you couldn't love that, right? We make all kinds of creative cakes, and they're fun. They're not fancy flavors. They're the flavors of my childhood. I loved the Dreamsicle Pop, which was an orange push pop. When we were little, we had these push pops in the summertime, which was like a sherbet ice cream, an orange sherbet ice cream. So we have a Dreamsicle cake. I have a rainbow sherbet cake. Of course, we make all the Southern traditionals: German chocolate, red velvet, the pineapple coconut, the caramel cake, yellow chocolate, lemon, strawberry. We make all those cakes. But we make a lot of fun cakes too, like we do a Neapolitan cake that reminds me of Neapolitan ice cream. We have fun with cake.
Is there a store-bought cake that you enjoy?
There absolutely is. And it is called a Louisiana crunch cake. The cake has like a vanilla cake. It's made like a pound cake, but it's not as heavy as a pound cake. And it has a glaze on it that has a little bit of an orange lemony flavor, and it has coconut in it. And it gets sugary on the outside, so the cake crunches. I love that cake.
Tell us about your inspiration.
My inspiration is African-American women that kind of took ingredients and prepared them for their families with like this so much love. Like, things were special for my grandmother, my great-grandmother. The cake that was presented was like a real gift, and it was presented with all love, and they never skimped on ingredients. I would watch my grandmother sometimes. We made a double chocolate cake at Christmas. And I remember one Christmas, that she didn't make the cake. And I asked her why she didn't make the cake. And it was because she didn't have this particular sour cream that she uses in the cake. And so she just didn't make it, right? Like no substitution. And so I think that's what I celebrate is I don't bake with substitutions, like period. Like, I'm sorry. People say, well, can you make that with no sugar? Can you make that with no butter? And the answer is no, I can't make that with no sugar. I can't make that with no butter, unfortunately. But I am working on some things that meet a taste profile that will satisfy me, because first these cakes have to satisfy me before I can ever sell them, that are more aligned with what certain people say they want. You know, I'm working on a gluten-free cake, and I am working on a cake that is sugarless, not sugar-free, because I'm going to use some sweeteners, but not artificial sweeteners, because that has an artificial taste, and my mind can't connect with that.
Fill in the blank. Baking is
love, absolute pure love, period.
Is there a most popular birthday cake?
The most popular birthday cake at my bakery is made with our vanilla cake. It's filled with fresh strawberries and it's frosted with our buttercream. For birthdays, people like buttercream. And we make real buttercream. We don't make the buttercream that, you know, people say, oh, I don't like buttercream. I'm like, girl, you haven't had this buttercream. This is buttercream. This is like, who doesn't like buttercream? It's butter and sugar. I mean, like, who doesn't like buttercream? But what you've had is uttercream without the B. So yeah, that's our most famous birthday cake, our most popular here.
What is your greatest challenge when it comes to cakes?
My greatest challenge when it comes to cakes is people want to have the taste profile that we provide in a Louboutin shoe. And that's a challenge. They see all these super highly decorated fondant type cakes, and they want you to make that cake look like a wedding ring. And so I used to attempt to do that when I started out 17 years ago, but I don't do it anymore. I've really become comfortable in what I do. And I also have, over the years, attracted a crowd that sees the beauty in the naturalness of my cakes, right? That caramel cake that I showed you, that drip on it, people used to say that that looked messy when I first started out because, you know, the caramel is going to do what it wants to do, right? You really can't like control where that drip stops. It stops when it gets ready to stop. But you know, so yeah, now over the years, people have grown to appreciate the style in which I bake the cake, which is I use the ingredients and the ingredients do what they do. I mean, I can't make our buttercream into a shoe. It just won't go.
Do you like chocolate, white, milk, or dark chocolate?
Okay, so let's talk chocolate. White chocolate is fun. It's not exactly chocolate, I realize that, but it does add a cool flavor and it exposes people to the chocolate world. I like chocolate. I'm not going to necessarily pick, but if I had to pick, I would say I like dark chocolate the best.
Do you have any cake secrets that you can share with a home cook?
Number one, cooking is art. Baking is science. So if you start out thinking of this as a formula, and if you don't measure and follow the instructions, you're going to blow up. You'll do a better job. What people do when they bake is they bake like they cook. They add things haphazardly. And you can't do that. Baking is really a chemical reaction in the oven. And so you need to measure properly. I think that measuring properly and not substituting ingredients until you have mastered what you're trying to do is important. I get calls from people, I'll put a recipe, a newspaper will run a recipe, and they'll call me up and say my recipe didn't work. And I'm like, girl, is that how you want to start this conversation? Really? Okay, like you calling brown sugar now. That's what you want to say. And then when we get right down to it, people don't know that a cup is a measure. it is not the obstacle that you put the flour or the sugar in. That is not a cup because it's 16 ounces, not 8 ounces, girl. Okay. Another thing people tend to do, I published my pineapple coconut cake recipe. And I got this call from a lady way down south someplace. She had a deep southern accent and she was scolding me. And I said, well, we get down to it. Do you realize that she used fat-free cream cheese? I'm like, girl, fat-free cream cheese is not cream cheese. You just take the C and the R off of the cream and you had something else.
What's important in your life, Stephanie?
Right now, what's important in my life is I have raised my daughter. She's 28. She is a opera singer, and she sings all over the world professionally. I'm proud of her. And I think right now that that's completely out of the way and she's completely launched, what's important to me is two things. To build a business that's generational. It is my goal that brown sugar will last way long after I have left the planet. And it's also that I get to have an environment and expand an environment that empowers people. I get to hire who I want to hire. So I get to identify talent in people and whether they have the proper credentials or whether they look a certain way or they got a nose ring or their hair is purple. I get to do what I want to do. They can work for me because nobody can tell me that they can't. So that's a whole lot of fun. And I think that's where I'm at in my life. My goal right now is to build a company of 200 employees and to help them utilize the money that they generate with me to actually make a difference in their life. So we're talking about things at Brown Sugar like credit, home ownership, not taking the Uber every day, girl, because that's just too expensive. Buy a car.
Can you talk to us about your national delivery?
Yay. So this is national delivery for brown sugar has been something that has really been a roadblock that I'm so glad to say is behind me. People have this cake and they've been asking me for years to ship it. But shipping the kind of cake that I make is a little bit different because, again, a lot of the cakes that you order online and ship, they're not what you would expect them to be. And so as I began to try to research this, it just took me a while to get to the point where I could get my caramel cake to ship properly. So we started in February. It's going well. Are there problems? Yes. Does the caramel cake look as beautiful as the one I showed you when it gets there? No, because you're going to take the paper off. And if you don't take the paper off when the cake is still frozen, some of the caramel pulls off. Does it taste as good as the one that I showed you? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. And I'm so excited to say that we're shipping the cake and the people that are receiving are very, very happy.
Is there anything that you would like to say that's meaningful to you?
I think what's meaningful to me is that, right now in this time, I'm so absolutely grateful that although we are coming out of an extremely challenging time, what I have seen, especially in my world, the culinary world, in my community, a community that has been traditionally underserved in so many ways, is a gathering, is a connectedness that I've never seen before. I see people now in my community walking their dogs. I see people that are stopping in to say, hey, is everybody okay? Are you doing good? And that's something that has been missing for a long time. So I'm really happy that I think that although there's been a lot of tragic things that happened in this last year, a lot of lost lives, that the lives that are still here, I see a brightness for our future. I see a new committedness in humans, and that really makes me happy.
I always have to ask this question because obviously I'm an odd individual. Do you consider yourself a lunatic?
Crazy as you can fill in the blanks. First of all, I'm an entrepreneur. How can you not be crazy and do this? Like, I work on holidays. I haven't had a vacation in 10 years. I put in almost 7 days a week. Yes. Lunatic.